The portal had no weight, no sound, only a rush of light and motion. The vault hunters were flung through it as though gravity had no say in the matter, and then, all at once, their feet hit solid ground. Grass. Soft, fresh, sun-warmed grass. They found themselves standing in a sun-drenched forest clearing, surrounded by towering trees draped in lush green leaves, flowers blooming in bright colors, and shafts of golden light piercing the canopy above. Birds chirped in the distance. The scent of fresh blossoms filled the air, floral, sweet, earthy. It was unlike anything they'd encountered so far in the Wonderlands. No blood, no rot, no ash, just life. The forest they'd arrived in felt like a breath of relief. The longer they wandered beneath the dancing sunlight, the more they felt its warmth soak into their bones. Hours passed easily, though they hardly noticed. Every step led them deeper into a realm that felt like it had been hidden away from the decay and violence of the world outside. This forest wasn't just untouched, it was protected, like nature's own sanctuary. Eventually, they reached a denser patch of woods where the trees grew thick with bright foliage. Massive leaves dangled overhead, casting shifting patterns of shadow over blooming ground cover. Beams of sunlight broke through, illuminating delicate petals in a tapestry of color. Wildlife skittered and flew across branches and underbrush, peaceful and curious. For the first time in what felt like forever, the vault hunters weren't reaching for their weapons, but then they heard it. A faint, fluttering sound. Gentle at first, then louder, closer. The group instinctively tensed, not out of fear, but habit. They pushed through a final wall of foliage and emerged into another clearing of felled trees, their surfaces soft with moss and speckled with scattered wildflowers. The sunlight here was brightest, bathing everything in a golden glow. And then they saw it. An owl, sleek and grey, wings wide, descended gracefully from the canopy and landed atop a rusted, unlit lantern resting on one of the fallen trees. The owl blinked once, and then tilted its head towards someone, further down the log. There, half sitting, half perched like she was part of the forest itself, was a beautiful woman. Her long red hair was braided neatly along the left side of her head, cascading down over one shoulder. A green cloak was drawn over her head, trimmed with natural embroidery, and her eyes were sharp and alert even in the comfort of the forest. A leather satchel rested at her side, jars and herbs and feathered charms dangling from its straps. In her right hand she held a curved blade, shaped like a sickle or fang. In her left she carried a staff, entwined with vinework and natural ornaments. Her pants were rolled up to the knees, dirt-dusted and well-travelled, and she stood barefoot, toes nestled in the grass like roots of her own. She didn't look startled. If anything, she seemed to have been expecting them. The owl fluffed its feathers. The forest still. Suidas took a step forward, her voice soft. The druid. The woman didn't move. Not yet. But in the quiet beauty of that place, the vault hunters knew. They had found the first member of the Shadow Council, and her story was just beginning. Adriel stood still for a moment, sizing them up beneath the hood of her deep green cloak. Her sharp eyes flicked from Suidas to Cliff, then landed squarely on Mr. Phantom. Her expression shifted from calm intrigue to something sharper, recognition. Well, this doesn't look like your usual band of bandits. She gestured vaguely at the group, then pointed directly at Phantom. Well, except for you, maybe. The druid straightened and stepped forward with quiet confidence. My name is Adriel. Her gaze fell to the staff slung across Mr. Phantom's back, and she went utterly still. Her eyes widened slightly, jaw tightening, not in fear but awe. Holy Skag's ass! Is that Godric's staff? The forest seemed to hush at her words. Adriel stepped closer, now visibly animated. Godric was an ancient druid, one of the original wardens of the Wonderlands. He didn't forge many staves, just a handful, crafted only for those he deemed worthy. The one you're carrying? That's the last I've ever seen in the wild. The others were stolen by Hyperius, broken down, their magic stripped and stuffed into weapons. But this... She circled Phantom slowly. This is a relic of balance. Her hand reached out gently, respectfully. May I? Just for a moment. Mr. Phantom hesitated, then handed the staff over. No words, just trust. Adriel took it into her hands and a soft, warm glow began to pulse around her fingers. Nature itself seemed to respond. Leaves fluttered from nowhere. Her owl shifted its feathers on a high branch. For a moment, it was like the forest breathed through her. She handed it back to Phantom, her touch lingering for half a second. It's even more powerful than you realize. It's not just for raising the dead. If you raise a bad soul, it comes back worse. If you raise a good soul, well, they return whole. But more importantly, now that I've attuned it, you can use it to open a portal back to Shadow Grove. Her owl, somehow already on her shoulder, turned its head with a hoot. None of the Vault Hunters saw it land. Adriel began to pace, deep in thought, fingers absent-mindedly brushing her feather charms. It's not a weapon in the traditional sense. It's a tool for restoring balance. It's powerful in a fight, sure, if you like bludgeoning skulls, but what it's meant for is bigger than that. Then she stopped and turned back to the group. Her tone was suddenly sharp. Now, you've found me. Why? Why are you here? Suidas stepped forward, speaking of the Shadow Council, the mission, the missing members, the relics, Hyperius. Adriel listened carefully, her owl's bright eyes studying each hunter in turn. She gave a slow nod. Then you're not just wanderers, you're fate makers. You're the ones we've been waiting for. She looked down the path that led out of the clearing, her hand tightening around the staff. All right, let's head back to Shadow Grove. If you really are who you say you are, then I've got work to do. I'll start researching that staff more deeply, and we'll regroup to figure out the best way to find the others. The forest around them still whispered with birdsong and wind through branches, but something had shifted. They weren't just chasing shadows anymore. Now they had direction. And with Adriel at their side, the first piece of the Shadow Council was finally in place. The portal tore open once more, and as always, it gave no warning before spitting the Vault Hunters out in a heap onto the floor of Lord Sadler's study. Books scattered, a candle tipped, barely managing to keep its flame alive. Groaning, Suidas pushed herself up, brushing strands of hair from her eyes. Cliff and Mr. Phantom followed, disoriented but otherwise intact. Adriel, in contrast, landed with the grace of someone who had done this 1,000 times. Her cloak swirled behind her as she stepped out from the fading edges of the portal, not even winded. Lord Sadler looked up from a thick stack of parchment, his quill still in hand, mid-sentence. A dozen candles flickered on shelves and windowsills, casting warm golden light across the study. Behind him, a brass telescope stretched toward the window like a sentinel, its lens pointed at the skies beyond Shadow Grove. Well, he said with a wry smile. Either you were skilled enough to find Adriel, or she found you. Cliff nudged Mr. Phantom and pointed to the notes spread across the desk. Symbols, maps, and hand-sketched diagrams of relics filled the parchment. One word stood out on multiple pages. Drachnian. Cliff stepped forward. You've been busy while we were gone. Is that one of the relics? Sadler nodded and leaned on the edge of his desk, arms crossed. Indeed. While you were out in the forest, I managed to uncover information about a relic Hyperius is actively seeking. A sword, a very specific sword. He reached into a drawer and laid out a more detailed sketch of a jagged, cruel blade wreathed in ghostly markings. This is Drachnian, the Sword of Souls. As the legend goes, it feeds on the spirits of the slain. It is said to only bind itself to one wielder in a lifetime. If Hyperius gets it before we do. His words trailed off as his gaze shifted to the red tome now tucked under Mr. Phantom's arm. His eyes widened. That's the Book of Blood. He moved swiftly around the desk and reached for it reverently. You found yourselves a grimoire. The candlelight glinted off the blood-red script along the spine of the book. I thought most of these were long gone. Grimoires are ancient tomes of black magic, guides for rituals, spirit summoning, and spellcasting. Powerful, but dangerous. Some believe they must be written in blood and bound in human flesh, though that's more myth than rule. This one, thankfully, is only half that. He smiled grimly and took a step back, his tone sobering. There is only one grimoire I know of that fits all the legends. You'll know it if you ever see it. Until then, any you find must be kept from Hyperius at all costs. Returning to his desk, Sadler pulled out a weathered scroll and unfurled it across the surface. The parchment shimmered faintly with arcane energy. You could see that Shadow Grove had been circled in dark ink, but more points across the map now glowed faintly in orange. This map is linked to the magic of the land. As you visit places, they'll become visible here. It will also respond to knowledge, If someone tells you about a place, it may reveal it. He tapped the edge of the map with a finger. What you see glowing are likely the locations of the remaining Shadow Council members. You'll need to find them before we pursue the relics. A sudden, jarring knock pounded against the door. Sadler sighed. There's only one group that knocks like that. He didn't need to say more. The heavy oak door creaked open, and a dozen soldiers marched in with practiced precision. Their crimson and white armor gleamed, enhanced with tech far more advanced than anything the average border town had seen. Glowing yellow visors cast beams across the room. Only their leader went unhelmed, revealing a stern face and jet-black hair. The commander stepped forward without waiting to be announced. We're going to need you to move faster, Sadler. Those relics, we need them now. Sadler barely flinched. You come in here every week, demanding progress. And every week I remind you, when the Shadow Council went missing, it wasn't you who stepped in to find them. He motioned toward the Vault Hunters. These three? They're doing more for your cause than the entire Crimson Lance. Maybe direct your energy into supporting them instead of stomping around my study. The Atlas commander narrowed his gaze, then looked toward the Vault Hunters. His lip curled slightly. Just get the damn relics. If Hyperius gets all the pieces to the vault, keep... He cut himself off, too late. The silence that followed was heavy. Sadler's stare hardened. Enough. He turned to the Vault Hunters. My apologies. I'll need to speak with these gentlemen in private. The Vault Hunters didn't need to be told twice. As they stepped out, Adriel followed close behind, her owl gliding above. Shadow Grove's main street had changed in their absence. Tanks lined the roads, and magical mechs hummed with contained energy. Every one bore the Atlas and Crimson Lance insignias. Adriel frowned at the sight, but kept walking. Don't mind the shouting, she said. Sadler always boots the rest of the council out when Atlas shows up. Says it's easier to negotiate one-on-one. Whether that's true or not. She shrugged. The Crimson Lance, well, they're Atlas's personal army. Heavily trained, well-funded, and they think they're judge, jury, and executioner out here. Her expression darkened, but she gave the Vault Hunters a thumbs up. Let's get ready. We've got more of the council to find. And that sword you mentioned, Dracnian, that can't fall into Hyperius's hands.